16th-century literature, or finally we get to Shakespeare. Okay, before we get to Shakespeare, though, we're going to talk about Erasmus. Very important background thinker, so didn't really like to get too tied down into the hot theological topics so much as, think, well, do you believe in God? Do you have faith? Okay, so that's the important thing. And if we're going to get into doctrinal stuff, like what do we have? So where did the text go back to? How did they come together? Wait a minute, you're talking about this section of Genesis. What does this word actually, okay, do we have this in Hebrew? Do we, and so on and so forth, right? So he not particularly an extremist, and he becomes important. He was widely important during his time, but also as kind of a way to think that, in my words anyway, more kind of mellowed down and big picture, and it permeates just about all of the thinkers after him. Okay, Sir Thomas More, if you've probably heard this name before, he served King Henry VIII, but he ends up getting killed by King Henry VIII because he wouldn't go along with King Henry VIII's Protestant break. And there are numerous television series and movies that deal with this period, and he is always a key figure early on because the friends that go wrong, right, that cost him, of course, his life. Cervantes, Spanish writer. If you've never heard of Don Quixote de la Mancha, this is the he's making fun of the knight in here. So if you've ever heard the term, waxing quixotic, you're going over the you're doing something silly for a cause that's not even there, right? So he had wild giants in here getting captured, but it's not that. It's tilting at windmills is probably the better one, which you're having a big fuss about something that's you can't fight a windmill, right? Or you've totally misconstrued the situation. Montaigne was a very serious thinker, French writer. I don't know that he actually invented the essay, but he certainly might as well have for this section of the world. And he called it an attempt or to try. All right, so I have this, and by the way, big picture, remember an essay is supposed to be about an idea, much like your composition essays now. You need a thesis statement or your central idea, subject and predicate, like that. It all goes back to this. So now I guess what I'm getting at here, ideas are important. So we're really getting away from the period before this where for much of the Middle Ages, they thought everything that you knew was in the Bible. So why would you look outside the Bible? So it's not that Galileo was doing something. It's not that just having the telescope wasn't the heresy and trying to chart the movements and all of that. It was that Galileo thought he could discover something that was not covered by Scripture. That's a whole different, and in their minds, heretical way to view it at the time. Well, we're way past that now. So now we're openly trying to develop our own ideas. So this is going to call evidence, what's going to support your ideas, and so on. This is a whole new direction for European civilization. Shakespeare. So large you can't hardly even talk about him in a few minutes. So why was Shakespeare important? Well, first of all, it's not just the plays that he wrote. He was in terms of writing sonnets, he probably has the best ones by most people's opinions. You can read these on your own. There's a whole book of them if you would like to get that. I'm going to say that Shakespeare is important if we just keep in the theme of what I was just talking about. He creates modern characters. And well, what do you mean by that, Davis? I mean, well, before Shakespeare, you didn't have people like you see in the movies today who do this all the time. Well, they didn't exist before Shakespeare. And it's not as a technological thing or anything like that. It's just that no one had people on stage thinking like or doing things like that before Shakespeare. So if we look at the specific example of Hamlet, and there are a number of characters like this. So Hamlet represents a new, more modern personality who questions himself, broods, and he's much more like what we would call a modern existential anti-hero, right? Tortured by doubt, sunk in melancholy. Human nature is freely self-formed and by human beings themselves, right? So he's not acting here, right? And Hamlet's big thing is that he takes way too long to act, and we say, well, we would do this sooner, but then you would miss all this stuff along the way, and so he's questioning himself, to be or not to be, to exist or not to exist. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune or take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing in them, really should be a question mark there. So just notice the metaphor along the way, by the way. Take arms against a sea of trouble. So you literally cannot take, if you took a short sword and started walking into the ocean and you're going to take out the ocean, well, that's impossible, right? Because the waves keep coming. So that sort of thing is what sets the language part of that, is what sets Shakespeare apart. So we're talking about the tragedies here. Do you realize he wrote a bunch of comedies, and back in this time, comedy really meant, think more romantic comedy, right? Comedy proper in this time meant there was going to be a marriage at the end of it. And Shakespearean comedies are really, it's about the same stuff that happens on the soap operas, the daytime and the nighttime soap operas for that matter as well. It's just that his language is so much better along the way for the comedies. Easily, just about any aspect of Shakespeare would be a good presentation topic. These are, if you are so inclined, Japanese theater, no drama. You could do a presentation over that. Kabuki theater. What on earth does that mean? Well, go find out. And I think that will do it for this one. While we are here and talking about Japan anyway, some of you have written about, expressed a desire to talk about Japanese Buddhism. You may want to, with Japanese, specifically Zen Buddhism, Dogen, Dogen is a good one to take up for that. All right, so moon in a dewdrop or anything you can, I'm not sure what our databases do or do not have on that. Practices enlightenment.